Students, in this class we can see about Commensalism and Mutualism. First we can see about Commensalism. So what is Commensalism? This is an interaction between two species in which one species is benefited and the other species is neither benefited nor harmed. Okay, Commensalism is an interaction between two species in which one species is benefited and the other species is neither benefited nor harmed. And when we see the examples, one of the example is the orchid growing on the mango tree. Orchid is an epiphytic plant. Epiphytic plant means the plant which grows on other plants just for support. Okay. So for support they will be growing on other plant and they will not absorb water or food from the host plant. Okay, such plants we can say it as epiphyte. So orchid is an epiphyte. It grows on the mango plant or any other plant. Here you can see an orchid growing on the trunk of a mango plant, and here it is having the roots which are growing superficially, isn't it? In this picture you can see that, and this hanging roots are having specialized tissue called the velamen tissue which can absorb the water from the atmosphere. Okay, so they never absorb water from the host plant. Okay, so this is a type of commensalism in which the orchid is benefited. It is getting a support for its growth and the mango tree is neither benefited nor harmed. Now the next picture is barnacles on the surface of whale, on the back of whale. Okay, so the barnacles when they grow on the back of whale is benefited how they can be transported from one place to another, but the whale is neither benefited nor harmed. Okay. Then another common example which you might have seen is the egret and the cattle. Okay, the cattle egret bird and the grazing cattle is a very close association which everywhere you can see in rural areas, in the farmlands, you can see that, isn't it? So this egret will be always feeding close to the cattle. Why? Because when the cattle is grazing, it will be flushing out the insects which are present in the bushes, isn't it? So when it does so, what happens? The insects which are coming out will be caught by the egrets and they will feed on them. Okay, thus the egret is benefited, it gets food, and the cattle is neither benefited nor harmed. Okay, then another interesting example for commensalism is the relationship between the clownfish and the sea anemone. The clownfish lives in between the tentacles of the sea anemone. The tentacles of sea anemone is having the stinging cells on them. So they produce poisonous substance in them and it will be stinging onto the prey or the predator, isn't it? So because of the close association with the clownfish, it will not, the stinging cells will not, or the sea anemone will not sting on to the clownfish, but if any other organisms are coming nearby, they will be stinging on them. Okay, so the clownfish is benefited. How it is benefited? It will be getting protection from its predators, but the sea anemone is neither benefited nor harmed. Okay, it is not getting any benefit from the clownfish or it is not getting any harm from the clownfish. Okay, so these are some of the examples of commensalism. Now next we can see about mutualism. So what is mutualism? Mutualism is a type of interaction in which two species will be living together and both the species are benefited from each other. Okay, so what is mutualism? It is a type of interaction. Actually, it is a positive interaction. It is a positive interaction in which both the interacting species favor the growth and survival of each other so that both the species are benefited. Okay. Now when we see the examples of mutualism, lichens is one example which you all know. It is a symbiotic association between the fungus and the blue-green algae or the cyanobacteria. So the picture what you are seeing first is the lichens, which is the association between fungus and the blue-green algae or cyanobacteria. So both are mutually benefited. How both are benefited? The cyanobacteria will be preparing the food and provide it to fungi. The fungi in turn will protect the algae, that is blue-green algae, and it also provides support to the algae and makes it to attach to any substratum. Thus both are mutually benefited. Okay. Then another example is the mycorrhiza. What is mycorrhiza? Myco means fungi, rhiza means root. So it is the association between the fungi and the root of higher plants. Okay. So here the fungi will be growing on the surface of the root. So it produces so many branches just like that of the root, and it helps in absorption of essential nutrients from the soil and provide it to the plants. Okay. And the plant in turn will provide the food which is synthesized by them to the fungi. That is the carbohydrate food will be provided to the fungi. Thus both are mutually benefited. Most interesting evolutionary examples of mutualism are found in plant and animal relationships. The plants need the help of animals for pollinating their flowers, isn't it? And not only for pollinating the flowers, they also need the insects or animals for dispersing their seeds also. Okay, so the seeds can be dispersed by the animals to various places so that the plants can occupy various geographical areas. Okay, so animals, when they help in pollination and dispersal of seeds, they should be paid some fees, isn't it? Or they should be rewarded. So what rewards are given by these plants to these animals? The plant offers rewards in the form of pollen and nectar for the pollinators. And for the seed dispersers, they provide juicy and nutritious fruits. Okay. So in a mutually beneficial system, they should be safeguarded against the cheaters. There are some cheaters also. Okay, who are the cheaters? They used to take the nectar from the flowers, but they never aid in pollination. So this mutually beneficial system should be safeguarded against these cheaters also. Okay, and the plant animal interactions often involve co-evolution. Okay, so what is this co-evolution? So if any change occurs in the plant, the same change should be seen in animal, or if any change occurs in the animal, the plant should also evolve accordingly. Then only they can exist. Otherwise, one have to become extinct, then slowly the other will also become extinct. So one such example seen here is fig and the wasp. Fig is a plant which is pollinated by the wasp. Okay. Only that wasp will be pollinating this fig plant. Why? Because in this inflorescence, you can see the below picture, the inflorescence of the fig plant. Here, only this wasp used to enter inside that. Why it enter into that inflorescence? In order to search for a place for egg laying. Okay, for oviposition. Oviposition means egg laying. So when it enters the fruit or that fig inflorescence for egg laying, it will be carrying some pollen from that plant, from that inflorescence, and then when it reaches another inflorescence, it will dust the pollen from this inflorescence to that. Thus it aid in pollination. Okay, so why is it is visiting all these inflorescence? In order to search a place for egg laying. So in turn, what happens? The fruit, the fig fruit will be providing some developing seeds for the developing larvae. So when the larvae hatches out, the larvae will be fed by the developing seeds. Okay, so the wasp pollinate the fig inflorescence in search of suitable place for egg laying. In turn, the fig will be offering the wasp with some developing seeds for their larvae. Okay. So this is the wasp which you are seeing in this picture. Now another example is the orchid pollinated by its pollinator, that is the bees or the bumblebees. Okay. The orchids will be having different patterns of flowers. Okay. So these are evolved to attract the correct pollinator. So one example for that is the Mediterranean orchid of race. It will be employing a method called sexual deceit to get pollination done by a species of bee. Here, one petal of the flower will be bearing a resemblance to the female bee. So here you see the petal of the orchid flower. So it will be resembling to that of the female bee in size, color, as well as their pattern or their markings. Okay. So the male bee will think that it is a female bee. So it will be attracted towards that female, and it pseudo copulates with the flower. Pseudo means false. False copulation is done, so that during this process it will be dusted with the pollen grains of the flower. Okay, now this same bee will be visiting another flower and pseudo copulates that flower. So pollen which is dusted on its back will be reaching the other flower. Okay, thus it helps in pollination. Okay, so here the method involved is pseudo copulation or sexual deceit, we can say. Okay, so actually it is not the actual sexual copulation done, but it is a false one. It misunderstands the petal of that orchid flower as the female bee, and it pseudo copulates with it. Okay, so here you can understand the importance of co-evolution, isn't it? So if the female's bee color is slightly changing during evolution, then the plant should also change accordingly. It should co-evolve accordingly, so that its petal should resemble the female bee. Otherwise, what will happen? The male bee will not come there, it will not pseudocopulate, and thus it will not aid in pollination. So, in such mutualism, co-evolution is a need, because if one organism which is involved in that relationship is evolving, the other species also should evolve. Otherwise, it may lead to the extinction of the species. Okay, so that is about mutualism. So here is also one of the flower. The petals, you can see how it is beautiful, looking similar to that of the female bee. Okay.